welcome to CRA Modcast number 5, and we're going to be talking about weird shit you see in the wild. David.
Why are you looking at me first?
Because,
Oh.
David.
So one of the things we were kind of like chatting about is something that causes some grief. Like the whole clone and like replicating community is the differences between a clone as shipped from the factory with as issued items versus one you'd actually find in use somewhere where guys have swapped stuff out. Some folks get salty about it. Some people are only about like, I want it as Crane issued Mark 12, with all the original bits. And then, for some it's like, and you want to find an option that's mill and first focal plane. Well, you go looking for something that's more practical, but still is in like the whole clone realm. So, just to use that as an example, one of the big things that causes a lot of discussion is like optic options and everything like that. Even further from there, you've got everything from stocks, vertical grips, pistol grips, basically everything that's not bolted onto the rifle. Some guys in like line units got to change their stuff around. Some folks like Marine Corps units are just flat out not allowed to touch anything. There are even guys with Mark 12s that were in Marine infantry units that were not allowed to use the suppressors. Bullshit like that. Just kind of like chat about some of the goofiest shit we've seen, some of the curious stuff, some of the stuff that makes the most sense and like is the most practical versus, some of the weird stuff. So, do you want me to start scrolling through my gallery first, or what do you want to do?
It doesn't really matter. I mean, Si, you got anything?
No, not really. I know when I started cloning, I, of course, was looking for any photo with something cheap to put on my rifle in it. Like if someone in the military had an MOE, I could afford an MOE. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. And I think that's where a lot of people get that angst of I got to find this in the wild, because that creates clonable. Now it's kosher or halal, and that is one way of doing it. And like David said, there's different groups of guys in the clone. Some people only clone retro. Some people only clone specific, and some people will clone anything they've seen in a picture. And but I think some of it is, at least from my standpoint, it was like I think at one point I found a picture in the wild with a VMX3T on it as a magnifier. And yeah, I know. I had one, and I was like, I need to see if this is kosher. I need to keep looking for this. But it was just one guy that had it, and it was one of those pictures where you couldn't tell if they were or something. We just happened to have it on there. But
yeah,
I don't know. I think that's one aspect of sometimes we're just looking for a cheaper option and want to find a picture so bad in the wild. And I think that's the wrong way to go about that.
Yeah, I think like when you get all the supply stories from folks where it's just they talk about these crates of like skeet IRs and all kinds of stuff that just sort of, and there's like no paperwork for it. They're like leaving and having to like throw it in the shredder and stuff like that. There's so many things that happen that are just not documented. Like people were there, they saw them, they didn't come on letterhead box out there like a care package and was like, hey guys, here's some mounts, enjoy. I mean, there's so many anecdotes of that kind of stuff happening that, there are a lot of things that when I first started out on things and was wanting to get into the whole, let's be all super specific about things. It's like some things are not impossible. Like some things took super to build an early ass SPR, like as configured in 2001, 2002, when they first hit the scene. A LaRue mount doesn't make sense because from everything I know, LaRue was not making SPR mounts in 2000 and 2001. I could be wrong, but I'm fairly certain those didn't show up until a lot later. On the other hand, you look at some of the last Mark 12 pictures that we see around, some of the last ones that are like hanging out in armories or are still getting used. They show up in like competitions every so often. You're seeing everything from LaRue mounts. I think we've seen some like Badger stuff, even with the not really a Mark 12, but the Holland things. Guys are literally throwing whatever they want on there for the few that are still around. later on you started to see more Night Force stuff find its way on Mark 12s. We've got stuff with the 3.5 to 15 by 50s, the Premier 3 to 15 by 50s. There's one guy out there was using a Leupold 6.5 to 20 ERT. It's just all kinds of crazy stuff. And like we said before, it's not as issued originally, but it whatever need at the time was like, I want more glass, and stuff was available, so yoink. One of the more popular Mark 12 Mod 1s is there's a picture of Staff Sergeant Miller with a Mark 12 that has the extended Swan rail. He's got the Mod 1, but it's got the extended Swan. I think it's the 36, or maybe it's the 38 SEX rail. Best rail out there, by the way. Not the best. I see your look. Just like because it says sex, but fixed Leupold 10 power pulled off of probably like an M24, M3A Ultra. And so, for some folks, it's like, okay, you're cloning the picture, and like, well, that's not clone correct, but here there are pictures of it, and it matches all the things that we've heard about folks using whatever was available if stuff wasn't available, or if they wanted something different for another reason. So I mean, like, those are pretty logical things, though. Pulling optics off an M110 makes sense. Pulling optics off an M24 makes sense. Off of a, Mark 14, or the Marines pulling something off of even 14s or something to throw on Mod 1s or SAMRs or whatever was available. Like, those things make sense. But some of the goofier stuff, let me find it real quick. The one that I love to pull up when people talk about, all these different things being bad juju, it's my favorite, is, stand by 1 second, everybody's most favorite and awesome tactical stock. Yep, that's right. That is the tactical duo stock on an early Mark 12 SPR. So that's probably, what, 2003, 2004, if it's a rack, which is what that kind of looks like.
That picture makes me want to vomit.
I don't know. So, but yeah, there it is. It's like a lot of the points the guys make too is that not everybody out there is like a super duper gun nut. Like a bunch of us guys that hang out on forums like AR15.com or M4 Carbine. It's like we wake up and check forums every day or whatever. Light fighter. There's folks out there that are doing shit and they don't have time to sit around and
mags.
Yeah. He's not the only guy too. Way back up here, this dude's running a couple mags. This guy right here. See? Yeah. There you go. But I mean, it's like there's picks of all kinds of stuff. For the longest time, about a couple times. For the longest time, people talked about how, here's another oddball. So, I think it's Brent. One of the guys that I remember when he posted back in the ARFCOM forums, he took in 2004 of a couple early SPRs that came through. Well, looking at one of these, it's got a 3 to 9 on it. So this is 2004 time frame, early gun. It's running a 3 to 9 with the illuminated reticle on it. And obviously, I don't think there's any way to blow up that picture and actually see what the markings say, whether it says TS30 A1 or 2, or even if it says TS30 or whatever. But there it is. This is 2004, and the 3 to 9 was there. It existed. It was on one of these guns. Any like documentation anywhere about how that would have come about, why that would have come about? But with all the talk of Mod 1 came about, at least from the information that I got while talking to Lieutenant Colonel Lutz, retired, formerly of Knight's Armament. The story that he gave me when I asked him a couple questions about what happened was that there were some material separation issues and some durability issues with the handguard on the early Mark 12s. And also because there was a patent issue with the front sight base having the elevation wheel, Precision Reflex had to go back and change the design. So I guess Knight's Armament was approached to, like what parts do you guys have that can complete this particular rifle or whatever. So they offered up their hand guards and some of their other parts. And I think that probably was happening somewhere around 2003, 2004. So around when the Mark 12 Mod 1 hit, it was like everything went to the 3 to 9. The 3.5 to 10 didn't actually seem to get issued out on the Mod 1 normally. So there was just like a couple things like that things that show up here in pictures that on paper, according to everybody else, that it should not be. Some of it's pretty, a lot of it was pretty pedestrian, but like here's an M4 stock, maybe even an M4 lower. I can't really tell, but again, early rifle M4 stock. You can get down to like the Mod 1s, and there's the standard, what we expect to be the standard rifle, with the 3 to 9 on it. Here's a different one with a non-illuminated 3 to 9 laser rail, like the one Miller used. This particular rifle that showed up at Knight's Armament, apparently with a busted, I can't remember what busted, whether it was the actual buffer tube. I think the buffer tube or something snapped.
Ergo grip though.
Yep, ergos were around. I mean, there's a whole lot of pictures of the older ones with ergos and stuff on them. Ambidextrous safety, or at least reversible. Actually, no, it is ambi, because here's the safety on the other side. So there's an ambi safety. That's the actual, apparently the same rifle, but before it was broken, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Or maybe after it was returned or something like that. So there's Miller with the fixed 10 power.
The M24 scope, whatever the hell that thing.
Yeah, it was the M3A Ultra, I think it is, fixed 10 power. Again, it's like if you go by just the documents, okay, that's not correct, but obviously guys were making do with what they could do. And it's not just limited to Mark 12. I mean, I don't have a super duper Mark 18 or M4 albums because, those aren't like my man crush, but there's just as much variation. And if you get on like the Mark 18 thread on ARFCOM or the M4 Block 1, Block 2, I mean, there's still always, every few months or so, there's a urinary Olympics over, the as issued and what's officially part of the SOP mod program versus whatever grip that you decided to pick up and say, well, somebody could have bought it and run it, therefore I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's different strokes for different folks. Both should civilly be able to reside with each other, but it doesn't always go that way. And sometimes good threads get locked out because of it, which I think is kind of stupid. Just get along.
That doctor optic.
Yeah, guys running doctors, and there's like one Marine Corps rifle in here, at least. Guy's got a 3.5 to 10, but he's running the lower medium rings. Oh, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah.
Is that a grip
PT shorts? Huh?
No, yeah, grip pods have been seen more than once on Mark 12.
That might be oh god. Well, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Seen more than once.
Yep. This could be one. No, that's got a bipod. Never mind. It's somewhere in here. Here we go. So this motivator's got the lower medium rings, 3.5 to 10.
And he's resting his barrel on something.
Yeah, he is. I don't know. He might not be shooting. He might just be looking.
Barrel harmonics don't. Not that big of a deal.
I think this one's actually an A2 stock as well. It's kind of hard to tell. I was kind of like looking at the coloration and where the sling swivel is.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just all kinds of goofy stuff. It's like, according to pretty much every other Mark 12 Mod 1, like they were not running the 3.5 to 10, like it wasn't being issued. But very well in this case, as someone else pointed out, if the Marine Corps says we need Mark 12s now, then
they're going to throw whatever.
It wouldn't be impossible for them to be like, okay, here's an old SPR. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they pulled one off one of the SPRs that was, either barrel shot out, handguards busted, something like that. Just like, well, shit, it'll fit. Throw it on there.
There you go.
Yeah, and that's more on the Mod 1 side. And like Vince, I know you've got plenty of stories about bullshit showing up. Packets of free goodies and care packages and stuff. Here we got like newer Mod 1 running the Mark 8.
Mm-hmm. That one's running a tactical cat.
Oh yeah, we got all kinds of stuff. Tactical cat. Yeah, you can't not have cats on the internet. That's what the internet was made for. Cats and porn.
And now,
apparently taking
while you're on
guns.
this picture, there's something else that always seems to be brought up: is the Mark 12 Mod 1, or I think the Mod 02, requires A1 lower with a fixed stock, and then there are people throwing on an M4 lower,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I mean, like a
I
collapsible.
want to make sure I get the right. Yeah, but they just take the lower off of another one, put it on their Mark 12 because they don't have the arms or something, or they just like the collapsible, or maybe they just like the B5, something like that. You hear of that too.
Yeah, and in some cases, it's actually the whole entire. They're dropping the whole upper on a lower.
Yeah, that's what I was getting to.
Sometimes it's just like it's not unheard of to actually have the stock conversions. A lot of these you can tell they were actually A1 lowers, and they had the stocks swapped out on them. I'm trying to find one that's more obvious. But there are some that are just pretty blatantly like this one. That's blatantly an M4 lower.
No.
I mean, you've got the UID tag. It's a Mod 1 upper, and that's just blatantly an M4 lower. And I think he's even running that's either an ACS or it's one of the other
No, it's an ACS.
weird ones.
Yeah, it's ACS.
That's an ACS? Okay, I was making sure it wasn't one of those newer STRs or whatever they are.
It's an ACS. I know this because I know this because I ran an ACS on my standard M4 for the longest time.
Oh, there you go. I need to get one of those because reasons.
They're not all.
But yeah, like that was one thing
hyped up to be.
Yeah, I know. That was I remember how long that caused like pissing matches because you had guys using A2 lowers, and calling it kosher or whatever, and people being like, no, it's not, and it's. We even had one of the guys that's in the Facebook group on the Marine Corps side was mentioning like there were rifles, Mark 12 Mod 1s that either had M4 or even A2 lowers, and if you think about it, a lower can become unserviceable.
Yeah.
And if the Corps still needs the rifle, they're going to put it back together with a lower, so, things that make sense versus.
They don't give a damn if it's the clone correct lower or not. If it's a lower and the gun still fires, then that's all that really matters.
Yeah. If it's in inventory and they can swap the trigger group over, then make it happen.
Yeah, there's not an armor going around. That's not kosher, guys. We can't just throw that on there. Sorry.
The joke always on like Facebook and then the forums is somebody go tell that guy he's not clone correct.
Yeah.
But it depends on what you take to be the spirit of cloning. If cloning to you is you want to have an as issued rifle for collector purposes,
those dirt bikes.
then yeah, there's plenty of I think this one's an M4A1 lower too because I'm pretty sure that looks like the profile.
Yeah,
and it's not ID. So yeah, there's at least a couple ones, and then if you go actually further up, where is he? This gentleman here. I think he did some writing for Defense Review. I was able to message him over on ARFCOM. The topic came up out of nowhere for some reason, and he popped back up in the Mark 12 thread. I think it was only the second or third time he had ever posted in there, aside from when he first posted that picture. And he was like, "Oh yeah, I ran an M4A1 lower on mine." So there, if you look in on it, yeah, there's his the early like SPR type upper, and he was running a collapsible stock because he was running night vision and a PEC 2, and better eye relief, more handy, etc. But you've also got I've also heard from guys that have like long ass freaking gorilla arms, and they're just big freaking dudes where like they need an A2 to be able to get decent eye relief, and that makes sense too. So it's like I haven't really seen too many pictures with A2s, but I don't not believe it. Makes sense. You're a big ass guy and you need the right eye relief. Have someone throw an A2 on there. It doesn't rustle my jimmies any.
Which is funny because your jimmies have been easily rustled all day.
Well, that's because you guys are actually getting to buy cool shit with your damn tax returns. We got to pay medical.
Whoa. Let's back up.
Here's your other Jimmy rustlers. Elcan on a Mod 1. I mean, there's no context to this. For all I know, somebody just threw it on there, took a picture, just to be like, who knows? Who cares? If you super duper have a mood swing to run an Elcan on a Mark 12, whatever, man. Like it's your money. I don't have the dough for an Elcan, so I'm not gonna tell somebody to go do it.
And to clarify, David, there's only one reason that this is working out the way it is, and it's because of size, dumb luck / my enthusiasm.
Okay, so anyways, NSN numbers. That's something we always hear about. If it doesn't have an NSN, it can't be, And I think a big one that I saw one little thread was about the KAC sites. Someone was talking about if it doesn't have NSNs, it may not be the right one versus, there were pre-contracts
Yeah.
KAC sent out, which they obviously have a different shapes. You can tell a pre-contract from a contract, but that always seems to be a big deal. Because from what I understand, it's possible to pretty much get an NSN for anything.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean you have a contract.
Right. And that was another thing, contracted versus, which I guess we kind of did talk about already, but just want to bring that one up.
Yeah. I mean, and like I said before, like sometimes shit just like shows up.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. I mean,
hey guys, here's some like grips or rail covers or other swag or other things they want people to test out, and it was literally like in the field T&E for free just by sending shit to guys out there doing stuff. And they're like, oh yeah, sure, we'll try these out.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. And like that, it kind of drives me crazy because all these dudes get like all up in arms over the it's clone correct thing, and it's like, okay, I don't know if you understand how this works, but you can literally find anything slapped on an issued gun or used in an issued gun, and all these dudes who are like, oh, PMags aren't clone correct. That is the biggest crock of shit I've ever heard. I ran PMags. Multiple other dudes that I'm friends with ran PMags. I mean, we even had some dudes using Tapco mags or Lancers. It was whatever the hell you
Lancers,
wanted to run. I mean,
I'd be fine with Lancers.
Like I showed Cy a bunch of pictures of my rifle, my M4 from deployment. That gun had a Myad on it the entire deployment for a grip. I swapped between a standard M4 stock, a SOP-mod stock, a Magpul ACS, went back to the SOP-mod. I ran the normal KAC vertical grip. Then I went over to a Magpul AFG. I ran the issued Surefire at the time, which I cannot remember the designation for it, but it was that big dumbass incandescent one that took up the whole rail. And then I put a personally bought Surefire Scout on that gun at offset mount with an issued PEC 2 that got changed to a PEC 15. That rifle went through an EOTech that I broke, a Comp M4S that lived, and later got swapped to an issued ACOG. And, I mean, no one had any issues with it, and because I ran it on an issued rifle, does that make it clone correct, or does it make it the logical choice for what I was doing with the gun at the time?
Yeah.
I mean, hell, we had the Army's SDMRs, those guns. When I first got to the unit, they had A2 stocks, Knights rails, fluted barrels, and ACOGs. Then we got back from deployment, those guns got sent off to be refitted. They came back with Magpul PRSs, they kept the Knights rails, they got heavy contour barrels, and Night Force optics.
Yeah, I think we were talking about this before. It was like, are you sure they were Knights rails? Because every actual Army SDMR picture I've seen they've all been this Daniel defense rail. It looked a lot like the Knights rail, like a handguard.
After looking
locking ring or whatever.
After looking into it further, I did find out some of those guns did have DD rails, but we had a mixture of DD and Knights. I think the guns that had Knights rails on them at some point in their lifespan were Mod 1s. Because that's the only thing that would make any kind of sense to me as to why they would have Knights rails.
Well, from what I understand from the SDMR thing, and I don't know nearly as much about it as I'd like to, is that there were some different iterations. If you go over to like the Marine Corps SAM-R, there's like the SAM-R that everybody knows, like the pictures we've seen of like the handful of them, because there were actually not many of them produced. There are earlier prototypes and smaller batches that used different kinds of gas blocks and proprietary parts. We've got some guys in the Facebook group that actually know what those look like and worked with and stuff like that too. And even if you talk about Mark 12s and you go all the way back to like the prototypes, this guy here, this is like before, this is like early SPR testing from when it was still like the SPR like special purpose receiver.
Is that an aim point?
It is, and I think it's backwards.
It is backwards. That's why I was really confused. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. And I know Scott's not here, but Scott's been able to provide some snaps of when AMU goes around and travels, they have like their traveling display of different guns they built. I wish I had his picture sitting here right now because it shows the SDMR, like you said, the version with the Daniel defense rail, fixed front sight, ACOG, and fluted 20-inch barrel. But they also had like another one of these early SPRs where it has this exact, I think it's like this exact upper, but on an M4 stock.
Scott's probably playing armor right now.
Is he? I didn't think he was online.
No, I don't know. I'm just making allegations at this point.
Maybe he's doing grown-up things, like unlike us, we're doing kiddie things. But like you said a moment ago, it's the exact point that I think people try to make is you use what you need at the time when you're doing stuff.
If you can,
guys using
you can dream it and you
Bank Force,
and you can justify it, and your unit's not totally gay, you can get away with quite a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, we had dudes running personal optics on their rifles, and it was never a problem. It became a problem when we got back to garrison, obviously. But
yeah, if you didn't have the original one to swap it back in with, probably.
Yeah, on deployments though, I mean, it was pretty much fair game.
Yeah.
Does it fit on an M4? Yes, then slap it on there. Who gives a damn?
Yeah. Yeah, and some like you said, some guys had flexibility to, if it's not bolted onto the damn rifle, swap it out. Then in some cases you've got the what you call the unit purchases, where a unit goes out and uses their government credit card or something and buys a whole bunch of Troy drop-in rails, even Troy free floats.
UBR is sexy as fuck.
Yeah, if it weren't for the barrel length, I mean, it'd be pretty nice all around. But
16-inch.
It's one of the more practical ones. Yeah, it's one of the more practical setups. Kind of like there's the one on Mod H that I like the most is one, again, 45 offset red dot. I want to try that out. I haven't gotten to shoot that. It kind of makes sense in my brain. I know some guys want it like all the way up at the way top on top of the optic. I don't feel like that's.
I don't like that at all.
How I would want to do it.
45 offset.
Yeah, it's like I said, I don't have any personal experience actually doing that. So I want to try that out because that looks practical to me. Sometimes things look practical on paper. I've gone through that so many times where I'm like, oh yeah, man, that looks like it totally would work. And then I try it out and I'm like, this sucks. I purchased enough AR bullshit like that I don't do that anymore. Things like side charging uppers and all kinds of and awesome ways to waste money.
Which will be a great topic for later.
Yeah. Oh, one of the other things randomly popping back to that whole thing about
out that 18-inch barrels are fucking retarded, by the way.
They are. If you're not building a Mark 12, then you're kind of dumb.
And I have a Mark 12. So.
Yay. Well, now you do. What was it? I think at one point in time, with various forms of 3-gun, or was it one of the practical shooting circles, I think you needed an 18-inch to make their power factor. I think that was actually a thing at one point. There was like an energy power factor required for the shooting series or something like that, and I think you typically needed an 18-inch barrel to actually get the velocities necessary for that. But 3-gun, and especially in 3-guns that don't require that anymore, like I don't see a reason for me to drive out. If I had no AR-15s, I would not select an 18-inch barrel, like at all. I've shot 16 and 18. I don't see any damn difference. I know, yes, there is a difference in wind when you're out at like 750, 800 yards, but you can get it out there, and it's good to practice and get proficient at shooting out that far, because that's a good challenge to marksmanship and practicing fundamentals and learning to read wind and stuff like that. But is it really ideal for that? No. So compare what the difference is at 16, at like 600 meters. It's a pretty minimal difference if you're using the 77 stuff. It's like okay, so now I've lost a handful of feet per second. That's like barely like a tenth or two on my adjustments.
I mean, hell, we shot out to 800 with standard M4s with Mark 262.
Yeah, and you know, and those were the kinds of things like talking to guys like Jim Gilliland was, you know, when we had some downtime at the class I went to, was just like BSing about that kind of stuff. And I forget what we were talking about, like M4s and stuff. And, you know, it specifically came up. He ended up using his M4 with a Canon bipod and or in the city than he did, you know, the M24 just collected dust that whole time. He didn't pull that out. Just use the M4. It was the better tool for the job. And it was that kind of stuff too, I think, that's influenced rifles like the shorter versions of the M110, like the shorter versions of the SR25, and now the HK version that's apparently going to take that over. It's a 16-inch 308, which, you know, a lot of people are like, oh no, why would you cut a 308-inch that short? That's dumb.
The same reason that FN has a 13.7-inch barrel for this car.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, okay, they're running a 13-inch, and you know, how many folks do we have that are actually using them to do things that are like they kill people?
That are straight slamming bodies with them.
Yeah, exactly. Dirt naps.
Yeah, for everybody.
So I don't know. A lot of it comes down to the ammo too. You know, and I think that's one of the big things in the progression of ammo has influenced clone bullshit over the years is, you know, when you tie yourself to like the original 1960s M8, you know, M193 or the excitingly shitty M855, you're super duper limiting yourself. You know, if you move to like 262, yeah. If you move to like 262 knockoffs, look at like the 70 grain Barnes and a bunch of the other kinds of heavier bullets that are out there. It's like, hey, shorter barrels work pretty good now when you feed them better ammo that we just came up with in like the last 10 years instead of using shit we came up 40 years ago. I don't know. It seems to be a tough concept for some folks because they say, well, you can't do that. And it's like, dude, are you living in the 60s? 55 grain sucks. We have better ammo now. It's like somebody just finding out that, hey, you know, we have like 97 octane gas, or what? No.
Now I hate.
Were you gonna say something? Like
I hate to interrupt, and I really hate to stay on topic like this, but recently there's been a lot of debate of the Vortex being seen in the wild.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want to say the 1-6 Razor.
Yes,
is what I'm thinking of. Or the HD, is it the Razor?
Yeah,
okay. I think we all agree that is kosher.
Yes.
Is it now? We all know that there are some really nice Night Force options out there that have also been seen in the wild. Do you think it's a price point? Because it's not a huge price difference there.
No.
Looking is the Vortex is illuminated, or do you think it's
both of those optics? The Razor has a very generous eye box, which is conducive in a combat weapon, and I hate that term so much. It's very conducive in a combat environment because it's so forgiving. It has good eye relief. It has good field of view. The glass is crystal clear, and the dot is daylight visible. But I think the biggest thing about it is how good the one power on that scope is, because you can truly use that scope in a CQB environment on the one power and not really see any degradation of speed. In comparison to something like a aim point.
And I know Leupold does not claim that you know, everyone will call Leupold 1-4 or something like that, but I think they actually claim a 1.2 or something like that.
It's 1.2.
Yeah, they've got a 1.1 and a 1.5.
Yeah,
they've got a couple. They've had like 2 or 3 different versions. I want to say.
And now,
do they claim right now?
Yeah, I know you do, but
shut up.
Does Vortex actually claim a true 1X on their Razors?
At that price point, I would hope so.
Like,
I'm not sure if
and also, is it a parallax free 1X? Because they have technology and they make some 1X, and I'm not to bring this up completely off topic because I like to stay on it, but the Spitfire that they have is a 1X. It's a prism sight, but they claim no parallax, and it is a true 1X.
But it's only one.
So they have the technology, they have the capability. I know, but
I thought they had
is it possible to do that on a 1-6?
I thought they had like a higher.
They do. They have a 3X. They do, but they don't claim no parallax on it. It has parallax. Yeah.
Okay.
Sai is the
that's kind of
guru
was
of
wondering.
budget stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I have to be.
Like his MOA scope on a
Yeah.
Mark 12.
I mean, like it's like you said before, when you're trying to find the right tool for the job, so to speak, you know, and if you're not having to pay for it and you're using like government funds, then go out and find the optic that
Right.
seems to meet the job. I mean, not everything has to go through a government contract with with compete and recompete and re fucking competes. That doesn't always happen. When it's like a COTS acquisition, something like that, you know, it's, hey, we've got a government credit card. This is on an available purchase list. Find a way to make it on a purchase list, and they buy it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes they buy stuff and say, "Oh, yeah, we're using this for training and you know, competitions and stuff," and then suddenly, oh, look, we're using for other things. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like
Well.
I've seen all kinds of goofy stuff. I mean, there's one picture out there that's bugging me now. It's like it almost looks like one of the Daniel Defense like carbine link like front sight base cutout rails on like a short, like a CQBR, like a 10.5 inch or 10, actually, sorry, 10.3. And it's got like a Surefire mini can on it. And I can't tell whether it's a legit mill picture or if it's
I have seen
some other thing with a guy just happening to wear lots of multicam.
I have seen legit
I saw
pictures
it today.
of dudes running Troy rails, but it wasn't the one you're talking about.
So there were some pictures of, I want to say, some Australians running some Troy stuff, and then there's also, they've been like unit purchased. I know a gentleman from
the TRX. I can't remember what the name of the fucking rail is, but it's the one with all the
I think it's
holes, the super slick one.
Yeah, it's like the TRX Extreme or whatever. It's not. It's the slick one, not the quad one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no. Who was the guy? It was there's a gentleman on ARF that does armor stuff as a contractor, and was talking about. I was like, yeah, we had a bunch that had the Troy rails, and we swapped them over to like Daniel Defense or vice versa. Like that was a thing. Units would buy, if you couldn't get the RIS2, if you weren't slotted to be able to pull RIS2s or whatever, get the uppers upgraded. It seems like folks were going out and getting it done.
No.
You know, and actually this would be a perfect time for Scott to chip in, because remember earlier he was telling us about how, you know, they'd go out to these units and guys were just strapping all kinds of bullshit on there and wanting to standardize it. It's like Mako, CAA, TAPCO, all kinds of stuff. Like, yeah, we want to standardize this. It's like, ugh. But you know, like I said, not everybody's like a gun guy. They use what works. It's just how it goes. All kinds of goofy stuff. Then you have, like, it's funny because like the most practical of all of them is like the one that's not even technically quote unquote a Mark 12 in a way. It's like the Mod H turn in / bastard uppers, but you know, to me they're probably the most practical of all of them. I've got an almost bastard one because I used my AAC can on it, but I mean, like I said, I can slap it right next to my Mark 12, my early SPR or whatever, and you know, yeah, there's a couple tenths in dope between the two rifles, and yeah, I need to be a little bit more aware when I'm shooting at 750, but I mean, otherwise, I'm not seeing this massive, you know, performance issue of losing 2 inches of barrel length. I'm just not. I'm using the same lot ammo, same box, everything. It's
Atlas is no clone.
They're pretty much the damn same. Look at it right there. Boom. Booyah.
Oh my god, that is sexy.
There it is.
And a mag pull foregrip? Oh.
Why not, bro? Why not? Oh, and you can't forget the Ace SOCOM stocks that are becoming like it's having a new resurgence now because of.
Good luck finding it.
Yeah, I know. And it's funny because I can remember seeing them back in the day and thinking they were kind of cool because they advertised them as being like super tough. Like you could like use it like a battle axe and chop people's heads and do all kinds of crazy shit with it and you wouldn't break it. But of course they were expensive as hell. I want to say they were like $300 or $400 for the whole getup.
And they just get more and more as people like us continue to buy them.
No,
here you go.
Here's a total ignorance question on my part. But is that A stock extendable to any degree?
Yes, there's a carbine version of it. It extends, so you can see it's collapsed here, extended here.
Oh, okay.
Ace, Ace also makes like a fixed rifle length version. From what I understand from some guys that are running the clone, running on their clones, is that the detents that the pin sticks in for holding it in each position, the aluminum or whatever they use there is super weak, and it will just blow right between the detents. So I know at least one or two guys that have mentioned. I know of at least one guy that basically pinned his stock at the desired length and basically just put something in there so it would not, like, kind of like drilled it out a little bit more and basically just pinned it at that position. Was like, I'm going to leave it here because it would collapse.
Up too.
Look at all that. Oh, it's so beautiful. It's so ugly. It's beautiful in a way.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Destroyed. Yeah, like we were talking.
That's a mag
before we were talking about like practical versus clone. Like this is like, if I'm going to look at all the Mod H's, I think this is probably one of the more practical ones. You know, it's the LaRue mount. You don't have the extra weight of doing the recce rail with the old arms rings. I would just like, okay, why not just go with the LaRue?
Arms sucks anyways.
Yeah, and the other thing is, since this 3.5x10 doesn't have magnification, I don't know if it's one of the later ones with a TMR.
You mean illumination?
Which I think is definitely a better reticle. I think it's a better reticle. I know some people hate it. It's one of those ones I think people either like hate it or love it or like don't give a shit. I like it. Not everybody likes it. But you know, I would definitely take it as an option to throw a TMR in there instead of a mil dot. You know, and then the offset doctor or whatever they're like, that seems to make sense to me. And I would love to be able to get a doctor and try this out and see if it actually works. You know, it may not. Huh? Yeah, I know. Cy just had one and freaking sold it. Yes.
Hey, if you can't find them out, sell the optic, right?
I had to rub a little bit of dirt in the wound.
Oh God, I can't believe you. Then there's a Mark 13, just because Danger Dan loves Mark 13s. But granted, he used an M110 stock, so he's not halal.
Once again, I hate to get back on topic.
Stop it.
It looks like, I think the next modcast we do, if we can get Scott off of Arma and back into the chat, I think I think barrel lengths, because we had a nice little discussion there, and I would really like to hear the specifics of things I don't know. Because I don't know
I think that would
really
be great to talk through is the shrinking barrel length issue.
And then
bad thing. I
think we could have at least an entire 30-minute video of just listening to David go through these albums. And
well, I mean,
because this man.
here's the thing.
That's what you're here for, though.
Here's the thing to always remember, though, is I'm just a sponge. I'm one of those people who's like a sponge with a mouth. Like, I see shit, I absorb shit. I ask like lots of dumb questions.
You know, they made a cartoon about that, right?
Yeah, like that's just what I do. It's like I ask dumb questions, and I try to learn as much as I can, so I can talk to other people and, you know, ask more questions. And over that search over time, I've gotten an opportunity again to talk to, you know, Mr. Lutz from Knight's Armament and some of the guys from Precision Reflex and a couple other places, and, you know, find out more information than I've seen in any of the publications. You know, reading through the section in Chris Bartocci's book, The Black Rifle 2, he's got a lot of stuff in there about the early prototype process and the different barrels they were using. You know, they were using Kriegers, they were using Douglas, and I can't remember the other two. I want to say it was Hart, but it may have been somebody else.
I believe Hart was used.
So yeah, it was like they would buy batches of them, shoot the shit out of them, and I don't know if it was Bartling. I'll have to find, I got some scans of it. I still need to I need to buy that damn book. I just need to stop goofing around. It's not a cheap book, but, you know, got to support the author, right? So like, I mean, like I saw the scans of the different images, and it had the pages, and like they had gone through a couple different barrel lengths. They were trying like 22 inches, 24 inches. They were trying all different kinds of stuff in between. On the Army side, because the way you would read it, it was like depending on if you talk to somebody who was at Crane, somebody who's at AMU or on the Army side, and, you know, somebody who was on the Navy side, like maybe more like NSW types, you get like three different stories on how the whole Mark 12 thing happened. Yeah. You talk to the AMU guys in the 5th group, like it's like the genesis actually seemed to be from as making the actual SPR project and saying, hey, we want to make an upper that's a drop-in precision upper to do things. And then ultimately tapped into AMU resources and knowledge base and everything like that. And that's where this version comes along. And then it seems more like later on, the Navy guys got looped into it because they wanted like an official recce, and this program was already running, and it's like they got looped in. Story I've seen. You know, and I don't know if you try to go through all of the different like contract solicitations and documentation. There's a guy out there. He's got a site that is basically like a running timeline of the SOP mod program, like every like little contractual item and like the contract numbers and incident numbers and rough dates of when like the actual Mark 12 designation was issued, which wasn't until later. I think it was like 2002 or something is when that happened. It wasn't right away.
Everyone on GOA makes me want to punch a baby.
What is?
Everyone
that's a different video. Those are holiday videos. That's the only time we get to do those videos are holidays.
Yeah. I don't know. Like how you could go on I could go on forever just talking about what I think I've learned. I could go on a whole entire video of shit I don't know. I could have we could talk for an hour about shit I thought I knew at one point in time, and was proved wrong by somebody who's fucking been there, done that. And I think that's the biggest thing that everybody who thinks they want to do clone shit about is, you know, yeah, we happen to have Facebook groups and Reddit groups and forum posts where we have people who have and are currently doing that shit. Take a step back and be like, hey, I don't know everything, because I certainly don't.
I think that's a great note, actually. You can't believe everything you read in the Wikipedia Mark 12 file, or the Wikipedia Recce file, the Wikipedia M4A1, or whatever file you find. If you have someone sitting there saying it's been done, you can't go, well, that's not kosher. Like we said earlier, who wants to tell that operator he's not kosher?
Well, I mean, like I try to temper it with, you know, if somebody really like seems to know their shit. Like I've known people who said, yeah, that's a thing, and they don't know, you know, a SOP mod stock from an ACS. They like legitimately are like, oh, well, it looks about the same, right? But you know, so I'll kind of like ask around a little bit and kind of like figure out, okay, is this person like, no, like I'll provide pictures and be like, hey, does it look like this or that? And they're like, yeah, or they're like, oh no, it was different. Sorry, wrong thing. You know, I think it's good to try and verify stuff. You know, maybe not always take stuff for face value, but it depends on what your motives are. You know, if you're looking at an excuse to use something, then some people will take literally anything. They'll take a one-liner on a forum of somebody saying yes or no or fuck no. And then some folks, I want to see a picture of it. Some folks, they're like, if it's not in a manual, I don't want it. Well, guess what? I don't think an actual early Mark 12S like Mod 0 or even the early ones like this shit, I don't think there's a manual for them. I know there's like a bounty out. Somebody's asking like for a bounty on it, but I think short of emailing people and doing FOIA requests and shit, I don't think there is a freaking Mod 0 booklet.
No.
I just don't think it exists.
Do you guys think we've hammered this point enough tonight?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Sai, as normal. Go ahead and close this
out. Yeah. My name's Sai, and I want you to like, share, and comment on our videos. Any ideas of topics or anything you can think of that we should do better.